In the year I loved Lewis Davis the most, he fell for a disabled girl I had been sponsoring. One day, I saw his chat with a friend. Lily's life is too smooth. She's so perfect it feels unreal. I'm getting bored of her. In that moment, my world collapsed. I blocked every way he could reach me and left the country without looking back. 5 years later, I returned. During an interview, a reporter asked, "Rumor has it Lewis Davis, heir to the Davis family, is getting engaged. Are you aware of that?" I smiled faintly and shook my head. "I've heard of him, but we're not close. I wish him a happy marriage." That very night, upon seeing the news, Lewis boarded a plane from London and flew straight back to Shanghai. I came back this time to compete in a classical dance competition. It's an international event held every 3 years, with the final showcase in Shanghai. The moment I got off the plane, reporters swarmed around me. My manager flustered about, trying to shield me and answer for me. A tabloid reporter suddenly thrust a microphone forward. He asked a very odd question. "Miss Lily, we've heard the Davis family heir, Lewis Davis, is about to get engaged. Do you know about this?" "Lewis?" I tilted my head and thought for a moment. It felt like I'd heard that name somewhere. Maybe an old friend from before. I put on a professional smile and answered with poise, "I suppose I've heard of him, but we're not close. In any case, I wish him a happy wedding." A few other reporters gave a little gasp. "Not close? In your circle there's a rumor you were once lovers." Oh, at last I remembered. He had once been my fiancé. Truly not close, I stressed again. It's been too long. I barely remember the person. I wasn't exaggerating. Lewis and I were childhood sweethearts who grew up side by side. In primary school, if another boy tugged my braids, he would drag him to the playground and beat him up. To make it to my first dance competition, he once took several connecting flights and rushed back overnight from abroad. Because I said I didn't like him not treasuring his body, he gave up dangerous pursuits like boxing and racing. Everyone we knew said he loved me to death. In his eyes there was only me, no one else. I thought we would go on like that forever. Naturally get engaged, then married. But on the eve of graduation, I happened to see his chat history with a close friend. He said, "I think I don't have feelings for Lily anymore." His friend sent a raised brow emoji. "Well, it's about time, isn't it? You've known each other for over 20 years. And you've been dating for 5. Anyone would get tired." After a while, Lewis replied, "Lily is too perfect, perfect like a doll. Her life hasn't had a single bump, unlike young Smith, she can't hear, and still managed to get into college." In Young, I found my passion for life again. Young was the female student I sponsored. Her family was poor, and she was born deaf. I bought her hearing aids, took her to doctors, and paid for all 4 years of her university tuition. Afraid she'd be isolated, I even introduced her to my own friends. The first time Lewis met her, he joked, "Young, you're a young shoot growing out of the desert." So that's how it was, after all. The scales in his heart had long since tipped. The moment I saw that chat, I felt my life cave in. I had poured over 10 years of youth into loving someone with all my strength, only to be given this ending. I shut myself in my bedroom and didn't come out for over a week. Until my best friend tracked me down. By then I could no longer speak. She forced me to see a therapist. The doctor concluded that my emotions had plunged into a severe negative state and that I needed external intervention, or else it might develop into something much worse. But this kind of treatment came with side effects. I began to gradually forget everything once tied to Lewis. All that we had been through, all those memories, became one symbol after another, strings of code, meaning nothing to me anymore. Unless I forced myself to recall. I couldn't even remember that I had once known someone named Lewis. My manager had been with me since my time studying overseas. She shooed away the gossip reporters and pulled me into the car. "Lily," she said, glancing at me anxiously as she drove, "are you okay? Don't mind what those tabloid people said." I shook my head. "No. I don't care what they say." And it was true. After long-term medication, it felt as though my emotional tides had been ground flat. I no longer rejoiced, hurt, or grieved easily for anything. I simply stood at a cool remove, watching events unfold. My manager sighed. "If you can see it that way, that's fine. I just don't know how those silly papers will write it up." Sure enough. The next day, the hashtag Lily Lewis, not close hashtag hit the trending list. Most comments claimed the only daughter of a media conglomerate was just being stubborn and two-faced. How could she possibly forget her childhood sweetheart fiancé? Clearly she was dumped and just wants to save a bit of face. Of course you'd be sad if your ex is getting married. I skimmed the comments without a ripple. By chance, I saw a single line. "Heard Lewis flew back last night from London on his private jet." A sentence squeezed into the corner, hardly anyone replied. I tapped it open. There was a photo attached. A man in a black trench coat, striding hurriedly away from the tarmac. That was Louis. They told me I had once shed a whole layer of skin for this person, had nearly lost my life. Was that true? I looked at my forearms, crisscrossed with scars, deep and shallow, one after another. It was almost unbelievable that I had ever been capable of such overflowing feeling. I yawned, set down my phone, and was about to lie down for a while on the big bed in my room. The doorbell suddenly rang. It was barely past 6 in the morning. I opened the door, annoyed. A man was standing outside. Tall, long-limbed, and looking a little exhausted. With a black long trench coat. He was the man from the photo. Louis. I parted my lips and said, hesitantly, Mr. Davis? But I didn't move. A woman living alone shouldn't casually let a strange man into her home, I still understood that much. Louis stared at me intently, his brows knitting. Lily, I've been looking for you for 5 years. He spoke word by word. The sound seemed squeezed from his throat, rasping harshly. After just that one sentence, he couldn't go on. I gave a soft oh. And nodded. So, is there something urgent? If it wasn't urgent, why keep looking for me? The corner of his mouth twitched, as if he'd heard something absurd. 5 years ago, we were about to get married. Then you vanished without a word, disappeared into thin air, without leaving even a single sentence. Lily, and now you ask me what business I have with you. Don't you find that ridiculous? There was anger threaded through his tone, as if he couldn't believe I'd said such a thing. But to me, this Louis sounded even more ridiculous. Are we really that close? 5 years ago, I went to the UK to further my dance studies. For my life plans, aside from my closest family, I didn't feel obliged to report to anyone. And now he had charged over, all bluster, to demand why I left. On what grounds? On what grounds must I explain myself to him? Of course, I didn't say any of that aloud. After being diagnosed with an affective cognition disorder, my therapist had warned me to mind propriety and courtesy in social settings. What I found harmless to say might leave sensitive, ordinary people with a strange or bad impression of me. Cold, abrupt, inhuman. Thinking of that, I steadied myself and offered a textbook smile. Exactly as the etiquette manuals prescribe. Word perfect. Sorry for the trouble back then. So, is there anything I can help you with now? I thought these answers were watertight, nothing amiss. But Louis seemed utterly unable to accept them. His face changed at once. He ground his teeth, staring at me. Lily, he growled. Can you stop pretending we're strangers, stop wearing that look that keeps me 1,000 miles away. Louis was visibly agitated. But I only found it strange. I hate dealing with this kind of tangled human relationship. And I hate guessing at other people's minds. Just then, the phone in my bedroom rang, like a lifeline. I hurried in to answer. It was Williams Brown. He's my partner for this competition's duet. My dance teacher in London, a master at the pinnacle of the field, is also Williams's uncle. He once appraised the two of us. In terms of talent, Lily is a touch stronger. But Lily, do you know what you're missing? All technique, no feeling. Because of family matters, Williams hadn't flown back on the same plane as me. He'd only just landed in Shanghai. Hey, Lily, I'm in the country already. Williams's voice is always bursting with life. He practically hollered into the receiver, do you know what day it is? Your birthday? I said. You're amazing, did you get me a present? I did. A surprise. Because my sensitivity to the outside world is too low, I take etiquette especially seriously. Things like birthdays and anniversaries, I enter in my phone's notes well in advance, so no one will fault me for being careless. Hearing Williams's delighted reaction over the line, I decided I hadn't said the wrong thing this time. After I hung up, I remembered, there was still someone standing by my door. If there wasn't anything pressing, could I politely see him out? Just as I was weighing how to begin, Louis spoke first. Lily, you used to say your memory was bad. Aside from family and me, you wouldn't bother to remember anyone else's birthday. So my memory really was bad. I used to say things like that, so, he paused, you truly have nothing else you want to say to me. I racked my brains. And finally produced a sentence that could offend no one. Oh, right. Congratulations on your engagement. After hearing that, Louis didn't say another word. His face even went a shade paler. Coldly, he turned and walked away. I hoped he wouldn't come again. After all, a good ex should be as good as dead. May he possess that level of self-awareness. And play dead. That evening, I went at the appointed time to the address Williams had given me. A niche little bar. He'd grown up in London and had almost no friends here, so I was the only one spending his birthday with him. When he saw me, Williams sprang up and waved. Lily. He's the archetypal dancer, tall, a standout in any crowd. I smiled. Happy birthday, my dear partner. I took the gift from my bag and handed it over. A wristwatch. I'd stumbled on it a few days ago on a fashion site and bought it on a whim. Williams was over the moon about it. He looked left, looked right, and strapped it on without delay, then showed it off to me, beaming. See? Lily, you've got such great taste. I nodded. Didn't say much. After we chatted for a while, Williams suddenly raised his head to study my expression. Lily, are you not in the best mood today? I can be slow to register my inner weather, but I knew at least one thing: I hadn't slept well this morning. At 6 o'clock my former fiancé, the one named Louis, had shown up at my door. A day launched from too little sleep had left me bone-tired. Naturally, I must have drifted into a faintly listless mood. Thinking of Louis, I idly opened Weibo again. I saw that after leaving my place, he'd posted a statement that afternoon via Davis Corp's official account. He declared he wasn't engaged. The girl photographed having dinner with him was actually his third uncle's fiancée. I have to say, Louis has plenty of fantasy girlfriends. After the statement, the comments poured in. I knew he wouldn't just get engaged to anyone. She's deaf, for heaven's sake, why would young Master Davis fancy her? His third uncle, heh. If it's for his third uncle, I can rest easy. Louis's third uncle? I had a faint impression. Back when our families discussed an engagement, I'd met him a few times. At the time he was still an executive in the Davis family conglomerate. In his 40s, thrice divorced, heavy-jawed and shiny-pated from early onset baldness, he ticked every box in the public imagination of an oily tycoon. Who would have thought he'd be marrying again at his age, and to someone so young? I tapped open the photo in the comments. Louis and the girl sat facing each other in a Western restaurant. She was smiling, her belly already rounded. I looked at her face, and old memories surfaced. It was her. The disabled girl I'd sponsored. Back when I accompanied my parents on a charity project into the mountains to do field research, we stayed a day at a local school. As we were leaving, she followed and asked us, I don't want to be trapped here all my life. Could you give me a chance to get out? She said she'd study hard and make something of herself. I thought she was so brave. Turns out, I was the naive one. By making something of herself, she had meant marrying the Davis family's third uncle, the one with no abilities beyond inheriting shares and collecting annual dividends. Had I known, I might have sponsored someone else instead. Catching me staring blankly at my phone, Williams ducked his head and asked, Lily, are you still upset about losing in the semifinals? Huh? I came back to myself. He meant the second round of the World Classical Dance competition held in the UK. Everyone who made it to the semis was already an accomplished young dancer in our field. Williams and I advanced to the finals, but only placed third. The judges' notes echoed his uncle's. The female dancer's movements are flawless, but emotionally, something's missing. When your partner gets hurt, you should show pain, panic, fear. Where's the emotional impact? I don't see it. Did I hold you back? In a partnered competition, if one performs well and the other badly, the one who faltered ought to feel guilty. That's social etiquette. I sighed and did my best to convey such guilt and self-reproach. Maybe my emotional performance really had improved, because Williams shot to his feet, flapping his hands in a panic. No, Lily, don't think that. I absolutely didn't mean that. He'd stood too fast. Someone had spilled liquor on the floor. A bottle on the bar clattered down and struck his leg. Shards of glass cut into him. A gnarly gash opened, and blood welled out at once. For a dancer, the legs are everything. If a leg is ruined, the whole career is finished. My heart gave a thud. A strange sensation. Williams, you need a hospital. My lips trembled as I spoke. I rushed him to the nearest people's hospital. He didn't shut his mouth the whole way. Lily, I've never seen you this anxious. Were you worried sick about me? Only when the doctor took him into an exam room did his chatter finally disappear from my ears. Silence at last. I sat on the bench outside and replayed the feeling that had surged in my chest just now. It seemed ages, since I'd last been anxious over anyone. Sorrow, anxiety, joy, unease, years ago, they had all been parts of me. Back then, what happened? It seems someone hurt me. I crashed, and spent every last drop of feeling. The bench where I sat faced the elevator. As luck would have it, just then, the elevator chimed. And opened in front of me. Louis stepped out with the girl I had once sponsored. Oh, right, I remembered, her name was Young. Instinctively I glanced at the panel. The car had come down from the 8th floor. The 8th floor. Obstetrics and gynecology. Wasn't this girl his third uncle's fiancée? What tangled rich people feud was this? I couldn't untangle it. I couldn't be bothered to try. When Louis saw me, his expression changed. He strode 2 quick steps forward, leaving Young behind. Only when Young coughed twice, one hand on her belly, and softly called his name. Did he look back? He spoke while gesturing with his hands. You can make it back on your own, right? His voice was cool. If anything comes up, call my uncle. If he doesn't pick up, there's his assistant. Louis walked straight toward me. What happened? Why are you at the hospital? He came at me, questions pelting down. I didn't think he was owed an explanation, but I still shook my head. A friend got hurt. I came along. He seemed to exhale in relief, sat down in the empty seat beside me, and said gently, as long as you're okay. Speaking of which, this People's Hospital is also where I was treated for my psychological issues when I was in the country. I've kept in touch with my therapist here. He checks in on my condition and advises me on medication from time to time. After Louis sat, the two of us shared a tacit silence. I thought he could finally be quiet like a dead man. But he spoke anyway. And what he said made no sense. Lily, don't get the wrong idea. There's nothing between me and her. He watched me anxiously, a threat of tension in his voice. These 5 years, I haven't been in contact with Young at all. What does that have to do with me? Why explain this to me? I tossed off a perfunctory, oh. He went on, talking to himself, just this past month, my third uncle's been on a business trip abroad. It's his first child. My grandfather takes it very seriously. When he heard I knew Young, he insisted I help out when I could. I looked up at the ceiling. Oh. Head lowered, he seemed to summon great courage, weighing each word. I heard that back then you saw that conversation on my phone. Oh. No matter what Louis said to me, I answered every last thing with oh. At last, something in him seemed to snap. He jerked his head up and stared, unblinking, the rims of his eyes faintly red. Lily, other than oh, can you say anything else? Uh-huh. Do you have to act this cold on purpose? He seized my wrist, his voice shaking. Back then, if I talked to other girls, you'd be angry, you'd bristle. When I forgot something I promised you, you'd lose your temper and refuse to speak to me for a whole day. When I pulled an all-nighter and flew back from the States to watch your competition, the way you came flying off the stage into my arms after you won, I'll never forget it as long as I live. He rummaged through the past non-stop, as if that could prove how good we once were. Even, how deeply we once loved. He said, Lily, you never looked at me with eyes like this. I only felt bored. Bored and tired. Oh? Is that so? I said. It was as if all the strength ran out of him. He slumped into the chair. I truly didn't mean to be cruel. But I had zero interest in his private affairs, didn't care to know them. Beyond and oh, I couldn't think of anything else to say. Men. Such strange creatures. I'll never figure them out. Too bad this wasn't my home, or I would have politely and tactfully shown this ex-fiancé the door by now. Just as I was wondering whether to find an excuse to slip away for a bit, I ran into my former therapist from when I lived here. Lily? He happened to be passing along the corridor, saw me, and stopped. Smiling, he said, I heard a few days ago you were back. Didn't expect to see you so soon. How's your recovery lately? Any recurrence of emotional issues? I hadn't spoken yet. When Louis shot to his feet beside me, reacting even faster than I did. Recovery? Emotional issues? Lily, what's wrong with her? You're Louis? The doctor frowned, giving him a once-over. During the early stages of my treatment, I'd shown the doctor our photos. I think it would help stabilize your current state if you two spoke plainly, he said to me after a pause. After all, he can be considered the trigger for when your condition began. Then he turned to Louis, you don't know yet, do you? Lily's affective cognition disorder. The matter began largely because of you. Whether Louis knew about my illness didn't matter to me at all. He, as a whole, didn't matter. But after the doctor laid everything out from start to finish, Louis's emotions collapsed in an instant. He crouched down slowly, like a little dog that's lost its owner, leaning against my shin. He looked wretched and lonely. Lily. He murmured low, reached out to hook my thumb. I slipped away. Louis froze, ducked his head even lower. I was horribly, horribly wrong. I was stubborn, two-faced, sometimes I didn't even know what I was saying. Lily, could you forgive me? The last question he asked with exquisite care, and never once dared lift his eyes to mine. These past years abroad, I'd rarely thought of Louis at all. The sweetness of those few years and the harm he gave me had both, bit by bit, faded away. So there wasn't really anything to forgive or not forgive. After all, where he was concerned, there was no longer any deep imprint in my heart. Oh, I said. He snapped his head up, his eyes lighting. Really? Lily, you'll forgive me? We have a chance to start over? I curled my lip. No, Mr. Davis. We're not close. Could you not speak to me in that tone? Not close. He rolled the two words on his tongue once, twice. In the end, he left. Spiritless, bent-backed, nothing like the dashing, young CEO from the magazine photos. I checked the time. It was nearly an hour since Williams had gone into the exam room. I narrowed my eyes and leaned against the wall, resting a little longer. At last the door behind me opened. A nurse helped the unlucky fellow out. There were glass fragments embedded in the calf. The cleaning, disinfecting, and picking out debris took a while. I took Williams from the nurse and let him lean on my arm. "Will this affect exercise or dancing?" I blurted. "It shouldn't, no tendons or bones involved. But do rest for a few days, or you risk inflammation." The finals were 2 weeks away, there was time. Maybe his birthday had truly wrung him dry. On the drive back to his apartment, Williams tipped his head against the passenger seat and fell asleep quickly. Bandages wrapped his leg, calling to mind a scene from our finals piece: the fallen prince, hunted, an arrow loosed from afar into his chest, he collapses at the cliff's edge, the noblewoman I play kneels by his side in panic and sorrow. That last segment had always eluded me. The movements were right, but something was missing. Because of my emotional issues, I couldn't push further in my career. A few years back I even considered leaving the stage early and going into teaching. Back then, it was Williams who stayed by my side, urging me on. "Lily, don't talk defeat. Try again. With your talent, are you really going to be knocked down by this?" Joy and anger, sorrow and delight, parting and reunion, I don't believe people are unchanging. You'll feel them, won't you? Williams rested his leg at home for 3 days. Then he barreled to my place, pounding on the door. "Lily. No slacking, we've still got a competition." I was speechless. Still, he was better than Lewis, at least he didn't come banging at 6 in the morning to disturb the peace. I opened the door and frowned at him. "Your leg, are you sure it's okay?" "Just surface wounds. A little scar cream and it's fine, no problem at all." Then he snapped into a midair 180-degree split right in front of me. My brow twitched. All right, don't get me complained about by the neighbors downstairs. Our goal was gold at this international competition. By day, we rehearsed in the studio. Over and over, the movements so familiar they were practically carved into my heart. At night, Williams would pull out the tapes he'd shot and analyze with me. "Look, Lily, here, and here, your body language, even your eyes, your expression, the tremor in your fingers can all convey what you feel." I nodded, half understanding. A moment later, something struck him and he sprang up. "Right. Like the other day when I got hurt at the bar, you were so anxious. I think, for that climactic moment, you could revisit what you felt. It was like being 18 again, the year of college entrance exams. Lying awake night after night, replaying, what exactly was I feeling then? Why was I anxious, panicked? Why was I at a loss over another person's condition? Until the final stage, just before our turn to go on. Williams looked at me and whispered, "Lily, how do you feel today?" I didn't answer. I felt very calm. But I had the sense that I might be able to break through my bottleneck. That performance was, I believe, my best ever. In the last scene where I could never quite enter the role, this time I seemed finally to distill feeling. I stepped into the character, watched with open eyes as the man I loved perished on the battlefield, and used movement to speak the grief, the sorrow, the loneliness, the helplessness of that instant. When the final phrase ended, I fell to my knees on the stage, freezing into the last tableau with Williams. The results were announced that same day. Williams and I took the gold. We had the highest score of all finalists. Before I even processed it, Williams barreled into me and hugged me tight. "Lily, we did it. A dream," he laughed, always a bit dopey when he smiled, "a dream, come true at last." In that moment, the heart in my chest beat hot and bright, something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Because it was the first international classical dance competition ever held here, the press turnout was especially large. After the awards, microphones and cameras hemmed us in. Most questions circled our careers, training schedules, repertoires, mentor styles, and the like. Suddenly, a microphone stabbed forward. With a thoroughly gossipy question. "We've heard the two of you are lovers?" The air went still for a heartbeat. Williams and I glanced at each other. The other reporters rubbed their hands, faces lit with gossip-hungry expectancy. I scratched my head, thinking it over. The media's misunderstanding probably came from the judges' comments after our performance. As a professional dance juror, this is one of the most memorable interpretations I've seen in recent years, one had said. Technically immaculate, flawless. Especially the last scene, the female dancer's emotional expression was restrained yet profound. The judge smiled. "You two aren't a real couple, are you?" From that one line, the rumor took wing. I opened my mouth, just about to explain, when a reporter said, "Hey, isn't that the Davis family's young master, Lewis?" Heads turned en masse. It really was him. With 2 assistants in tow. He must have always had a good relationship with the media. The moment they saw him coming this way, a path opened up on its own. "Congratulations, Lily. Your dream finally came true." He stopped in front of me and held out a bouquet of red roses. We hadn't seen each other for a few days, and Louis didn't look well. He wore a gray suit, his posture still straight, but his cheeks seemed a shade leaner, and faint shadows ringed his eyes. I hadn't expected to run into him here. But it was a public occasion, I couldn't very well shoo him away. So I took the flowers. At once, the reporters beside us pounced as if they'd scented a story. "Mr. Davis, you and Miss Garcia come from families who've been close for generations, yes? Miss Garcia has lived abroad for years, yet the bond between you seems strong as ever." Louis stared at me without blinking. I couldn't tell whether he was answering them or speaking to me. All these years, I've been looking for her. Lily, I was the one in the wrong before. I owe you an apology. His fervent gaze didn't make me feel at ease. I lowered my eyes. There was a tiny box tucked between the roses he'd brought. Absent-mindedly, I drew it out. Red velvet, neat and pretty. Without thinking, I popped it open. Inside lay a lavish diamond ring. For a heartbeat the world fell still, then a chorus of gasps. "Oh my God, am I about to witness a proposal?" A cameraman blurted it out. Coolly, I reasoned that Louis and I had broken up long ago. Giving me a diamond ring was wildly out of line. I pinched the ring as it was and held out my hand to him. "You dropped something. Here. It's not dropped." Louis cut me off, urgent. His Adam's apple bobbed visibly. As if weighing his words, as if mustering immense courage, he finally spoke, careful, tentative. "Lily, we once had an engagement. I want to correct my mistake." His solemn tone and expression were indistinguishable from a proposal. Strangely, though, I didn't feel a shred of romance. Only annoyance. I stepped forward, seized Louis's wrist, and shoved the ring back into his palm. "Here, take it. I don't want it. We're not close. Giving a ring like this is breathtakingly tactless." The flashes kept popping. The ring of reporters, having witnessed a proper spectacle, had been quiet the whole time. At last they couldn't hold back. One by one they craned forward with their mics. Whoa, was that a proposal? What kind of tragic beauty aesthetic is this? So Miss Lily really meant it in that last interview. Not close means not close. But Mr. Lewis's face doesn't look like it. The more I see, the more it looks one-sided. Mr. Davis chasing her. Are we allowed to say that? The chatter swelled. Louis, however, seemed oblivious. Head bowed, he stared hard at the ring in his hand. I thought that 5 years ago, being proposed to by the man I loved, in the full blaze of attention, would probably have made me happy. But now, everything had reversed. His fingers trembled, small and lonely beneath the flood of flashes in the grand hall. And I no longer felt the slightest urge to comfort him. Perhaps because Louis looked so wretched, the reporters finally let him be. Someone picked the thread back up. "Right, where were we before Mr. Davis arrived?" I think we were talking about Lily and her partner Williams's relationship." Perhaps sensing it would sting Louis more, their voices gradually dipped. And there was always one who wasn't afraid of trouble, thrusting a mic at Williams. While Louis and I had been going back and forth, Williams hadn't said a word, just watched me quietly. At last he heard his own name. He hooked his lips and flashed that cheerful grin again. Great. I had a bad feeling. This idiot was absolutely going to say something doomed. Sure enough. How did you know I'm pursuing Lily?" "I haven't succeeded yet. But I'm close by, so I've got the advantage." Weibo exploded that night. The top trending topics were all about the tangled grudges among me, Louis, and Williams. I suddenly realized I didn't even know how Louis had left that day. All I remembered was that the instant Williams finished spouting his inexplicable declaration, my face went hot. I snatched the mic from his hand with a whoosh. "Please don't talk nonsense, okay?" I felt flustered, all thumbs. Someone laughed. "I thought this young lady wouldn't bat an eye even if the sky fell." "What do we do? I kind of think it's sweet." After the interview, colleagues from several dance conservatories dragged Williams and me to a celebration dinner. I don't like drinking. I hid in a corner, scrolled a few Weibo posts, and felt even more bored. Suddenly, I got a message from my dad. "Lily, what's going on with you and Louis?" I rubbed my nose. Even that old fossil had learned to surf the web. Turned out he wasn't asking about Louis pulling out a ring at the award ceremony. He sent a few photos, contracts. Several of the Davis family's big projects for the year. Word was they'd net tens of millions in profit. Then came a string of long voice notes. "Louis says he wants to transfer these projects to me, and that I shouldn't worry, and you shouldn't feel burdened. He knows what he did to you back then was wrong. He isn't asking for forgiveness, this money. I know my father, he always says only a fool turns down a windfall. As for me, I didn't mind. I typed 2 words, up to you." He sent a cheeky grin. "Then I'll transfer all profits straight to your card. Baby, don't feel like you're taking advantage, this is what he owes." You suffered so much because of your illness. Shouldn't he compensate you? This tiny bit of emotional damages money is letting him off easy. After chatting with my dad, I put my phone down. I don't know why, but I had a hunch I'd never cross paths with Louis again. He would fade from my life, utterly, completely. I let out a long breath and stepped out of the private room. The night air was lovely. A low chorus of cicadas stirred in the evening breeze. I sat by the flower bed, a branch of crabapple blossoms arched out and brushed my shoulder. It had been so long since the world felt this gently pleasant. And then a phone call shattered it. Williams. On speaker, with his uncle. My mentor's voice was as big as Williams's. Brat, when are you going to win Lily over? I don't want her calling me, teacher, anymore. I want to hear her call me, uncle. Heavens. I never knew that rigid master of the dance world could say such things. I'm afraid if I press too hard, I'll scare her. All your fault, moping around all day instead of being your nephew's wingman. When he'd finished, Williams turned around. Seeing me, he froze. The air went brittle cold. Only my mentor, unaware of what had happened, kept hollering through the phone, "Why aren't you talking? Bad signal. You brat, who do you see? Hey, 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 hey." I took the phone from Williams's hand and answered directly, "Uncle, hi, it's me." Side story: Louis. I hadn't slept for 3 nights straight. The doctor prescribed sleeping pills. Sometimes, drug-drowsy, I would drift off and always dream of Lily. Dream of us back then. We were newly engaged. Everything still seemed fine. She leapt off the stage and ran to me from far away. "Louis, Louis." Her voice was always that beautiful. I couldn't help it, I pulled her into my arms. That was when the dream always broke off. I jolted awake, reached out in panic, my heart pounding. But the bedroom was pitch black. Nothing. Only me, pitiful and alone, like a little dog abandoned by its owner. I went to see a doctor. The diagnosis was no surprise. I'd developed psychological problems. Insomnia, occasional hallucinations. I started to fear crowds. Sometimes in executive meetings, I'd suddenly see Lily push the door open and walk in. She'd have her little shoulder bag, her tone exactly as before. Frowning as she teased, "Louis, we had plans, how are you late again?" I'd rush to say, "It's my fault, I brought you a gift. Forgive me, please." Down below, the neatly seated execs stared like they'd seen a ghost. Eyes wide, lips sealed. Oh. They couldn't see Lily. Only me, the crazy one. In truth, 5 years ago, after Lily went abroad, I'd already gone off the rails for a while. I couldn't find her no matter what I tried. WeChat, Weibo, even the video apps, every line was blocked. No quarter given. I was going mad. I went to the Garcias villa. Her father and mother wouldn't see me. I waited outside. Every day, rain or shine. Friends asked if I'd been possessed. At last, Lily's father agreed to meet. "Don't come anymore. Lily has nothing to do with you." It was the first time I'd seen my uncle look at me with such cool distance, a hint of anger in his voice. I lowered my head. "At least tell me where she is? Please." "Where?" He tugged the corner of his mouth. "She went to the States for further study." "Go find her, then." I truly went to America. New York, Los Angeles, California, every university with a dance program, I ran through them all. But nothing. Not a single admissions list with Lily's name. I walked down an avenue in New York, people hurrying past. No one stopped for me. And the girl whose whole heart and eyes had once held only me, just like that, I lost her. When I came back, Young found me. She signed with her hands, "Louis, pull yourself together. I'll stay by your side. You have so much work, don't forget our goal to build the company bigger and stronger." Strange. Once, seeing Young's bright energy would have made me happy. Now it only irked me. If I can't even find Lily, how do you still have so many ideas? I shook off her hand. Young froze. Her lips moved, shaping my name. I said, "Don't come to me again. Do you know how easily your old act could be misunderstood?" And Young did stop appearing. Later I heard she'd gotten together with my third uncle. Our old friends, upon hearing it, were stunned. "How? Your third uncle? He's paunchy and bald, old ox, tender grass. Didn't Young say she'd carve out a future with her own hands? How did it end with relying on a man?" Only I didn't react. It was as if I suddenly understood. In truth, she'd always been the same, never changed. A fierce ambition without enough ability to shoulder it. Just like when she begged Lily to take her out of the mountains, she'd merely switched the person she leaned on. On a whim, I went to Lily's dance competition. I'd prepared a ring. I'd bought it 5 years ago. Watching how seamlessly she and Williams moved together, I drifted into the press scrum. And handed over the flowers and the ring. God knows how nervous I was. The little box in my pocket, my fingers rubbing it again and again. I pictured her expression when she saw the ring. Surprise? Joy? Would she be scared? But, none of it. Lily Garcia was only cold. She said, "No, Louis. We're not close." And that was how she left me standing. She laughed and chatted with Williams, never sparing me a glance. Years later, on a business trip, I went to the UK. By then, Lily Garcia had become a master of classical dance. The instant she stood on stage, she blazed on her own. I sat below and watched her performance in secret. She didn't notice me. The moment I saw her on stage, my chest felt flooded over. At last, I saw her again. Even if her eyes could no longer hold me, to watch her from far, far away was already like crossing mountains and seas. And I was content.